Welcome to the Drew Allen Show, my friends. This is Drew Allen, your millennial minister of truth. Have you heard about this 80-20 rule? I mean, 80-20, right? So what this refers to politically, where I'm coming from and going with this is basically, on a particular issue, 80% of the population will support it and 20% will oppose it. So obviously, we're talking about a massive majority of support and a very small minority of support, right? 20%. And in this 80-20 rule, the Democrat Party at present seems determined to always take the side of the 20%. So no matter what the issue, if it's 80-20, the Democrats are going to take the 20%, which explains their death spiral that they're in politically right now, by the way. But we're going to get more into this 80-20 rule in a second. But we saw that on display at the Trump gave the address on Tuesday, right? Tuesday evening to the, Congress. It wasn't an official State of the Union speech. It was a joint address to Congress. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, too, because it was one of the best speeches given by a president in American history. That's a fact. And there are many things like this that more people are waking up to, which is the fact that we have an amazing president of the United States. That Donald Trump is an extraordinary person, historically speaking, and we are very fortunate. Count your blessings that he is leading the country right now. And the juxtaposition couldn't be greater. I mean, he's only been in there since the end of January, right? We're just now entering March. So we're approaching the 100 days, and the difference could not be more stark. And more stuff is coming out about the Biden administration, what they did. The fact that Joe Biden, by the way, more confirmation that he was not doing anything. He was just a figurehead. And there are questions circling, by the way, about the constitutionality of the last 4 years. If somebody else was signing the documents and executive orders and Joe Biden, in fact, didn't know what was going on, well, is any of that stuff lawful? If he wasn't actually involved, if there was, in fact, a puppet government operating from the shadows? But we'll get into that. First, I want to talk about Gavin Newsom. Now, you heard me, I think, mention last week that Gavin Newsom was starting a podcast. And I was joking. This guy is one of the worst governors in the United States of America. Depending on where you live, some people will debate and they'll get competitive with me like, no, Drew, I have the worst governor. I live in California. Gavin Newsom is the worst governor in America. You know why he's the worst governor in America? It has to do also with the fact that he's the scariest governor in America because he's perhaps the candidate out there that has the greatest possibility of running for president in 2028, of clinching that nomination. I do not want to help him get it. Now, I vacillate in terms of this fear factor of Gavin Newsom. I mean, could he really win? I mean, he's slick. He's a snake. He's a fool. He's kind of smart. I mean, what is he? Is he to be feared or not? But I mean, I just want to see the Democrat Party ruined over the next 4 years. I don't want to see any future opportunity for them. I want to make sure that we bury them and so that they don't have political livelihood going forward. And Gavin Newsom is one of those people right now that offers the Democrat Party some hope, right? He's like a lifeline to resuscitate them just a little bit. Now, I'm going to say something that more and more people seem to be jumping on board with. I said it immediately. So Charlie Kirk was the first individual, right-wing influencer, conservative personality, thinker that went on the Gavin Newsom podcast. And that episode's come out, and it's been making the rounds. And nobody should go on Gavin Newsom's podcast. That's clear to me. I'm not attacking Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk didn't do anything to hurt himself by appearing on this podcast, but it's very clear why Gavin Newsom is doing this podcast. Now, of course, Gavin Newsom is overseeing the decline of one of the greatest states in America, California. And we just had the wildfires that he botched, that his policies and ideology are largely responsible for. And here he is starting a podcast amidst that. That is not something that looks good. The optics of that should not be good. And yet here he is starting a podcast. He can't clean up his own state. All the stuff that needs to be fixed right now in California, and this guy has the audacity to start a podcast, which is just a slap in the face to Californians that this guy, wants to get in the podcast game, wants to remain relevant. I mean, you have a job to do, Gavin, and that's simply to restore California. Now, he's a Democrat, and this is a state run by lunatics, so obviously that's not going to happen. I mean, the less Democrats work anywhere, the better off that state is, because anytime Democrats get together and come up with ideas or pass legislation, it's certainly going to have an adverse effect on the citizens of that state. It's going to destroy them and make their lives hell. But Charlie Kirk went on there, and Charlie Kirk ran circles around Gavin Newsom, actually. And so, I mean, one takeaway is that Gavin Newsom's not ready for the big stage. He's really not. I mean, we saw that when he debated Ron DeSantis. He's slick and whatever on TV when he's with liberals, and he did a decent job with Sean Hannity a while back, avoiding. And I mean, he knows how to work his way around an interview and to give vague answers or avoid answers and so on and so forth. But my warning is this. Gavin Newsom is using this podcast for one reason. It's very clear. I said it from the beginning, even before this first episode with Charlie came out. I said he's using this to rebrand himself. Who is the leading nominee for the Democrat Party? Who is the leader of the Democrat Party right now? Can you tell me? Think of somebody. Jasmine Crockett, Hakeem Jeffries? Who? It doesn't. There is no leader. They are in complete disarray. And so this party is ripe, for conquering. And that's what Gavin Newsom views himself. He sees an opportunity for himself. Now, this is a guy who is desperate to become president of the United States. Yes, he's a reprobate. Yes, he's a fraud. Yes, he's a liar. He's everything any politician has mostly been in political history throughout mankind's history. But he is particularly diabolical. And so, see, he sees an opportunity. And he is willing to do and say, to his credit, anything to rebrand himself, reposition himself, give himself a better opportunity to gain power. And from Governor of California, the next step that he sees is president. That's where he wants to be. And so he's using this podcast to appear like he's centrist, to appear like he's open-minded. Because while the rest of the Democrat Party is bogged down in this ideological perversion in which they are incapable of changing position, incapable of altering their positions, even for their own salvation, Gavin Newsom appears willing to do and say anything. So the transgender issue, for example, is deeply unpopular culturally in America. It's one of those 80-20 kind of issues. We do not want biological males competing against biological females in high school athletics, college athletics, Olympic athletics. It's unfair. Everyone knows it. A boy in a skirt has an advantage against female competitors. And this is a no-brainer. And so the majority of the American people say this is insane. The trans stuff is just too much. It doesn't make sense. It's radical, radical, radical. But the Democrat Party across the board seems incapable of changing that tune. But Gavin Newsom is willing to do that. So here's a short clip from his interview with Charlie Kirk.
So like you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, right. that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out say no.
No, and I appreciate
but like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that.
Now, so there you go. I mean, perfect, political response. He doesn't answer the question about taking action on it because he won't, because Gavin Newsom's a fraud. In the state of California where I live, it's one of 20-something some odd states that is, given itself a mission to oppose the Trump agenda over the next 4 years. The moment Donald Trump was elected, the moment it was announced that he won the election, this most recent presidential election, Gavin Newsom and the rest of the Democrat lunatics in California got together and they pledged to spend a lot of money that was dedicated to opposing any of the Trump influence, any of the federal laws. So keeping California insane while Donald Trump tries to restore sanity from Washington, D.C. So they want to remain ensconced in this crazy world that Democrats have created for themselves and the victims who live around them who would disagree with them. So there's Gavin Newsom giving that answer. He comes out and he's being attacked, and don't pay attention to this. He's being attacked in the media by leftists now, prominent leftists. Oh, Gavin Newsom, he's not a friend of the trans community. You know, they're trying to bash him and so on and so. It doesn't mean anything. But it's not a winning issue for Democrats at the national level. So this is an issue where Gavin Newsom needs to separate himself from the rest of his party, because sane Americans, which are still the majority of the country, are not going to vote for a president who supports biological males killing biological females in some cases in sports because of their superior biological genetic strength and so on and so forth. So there he is. He has an opportunity with Charlie Kirk in this case to come out and try and position himself as a centrist, as somebody different. And that's what this is about. And why would any Republican or right-leaning sane person who has fought so hard to reelect Trump to save the country, why would you then help the left gain a foothold in this nation? That's what these interviews are being used for, to paint him as some open-minded individual who is willing to talk to the other side and understand issues. And whether there's any genuine desire for him to do that, or if it's all a superficial desire intended to be, secure the nomination for Democrat presidential candidate in 2028, we should not be helping him do it. So it's obvious what his mission is. We shouldn't give him relevancy. We shouldn't give him viewers and eyeballs. We should let him languish, because here's the thing too. Most of these, like CNN and the rest, now there's some Democrat podcasts out there that have decent audience share. There aren't very many of them, but there are a few that compete at the top level, but there are far fewer of them than right-leaning shows. And so generally speaking, this left-leaning ideology does not have an audience anymore. People are sick of it. They've tuned out. And so they've sought alternatives like Charlie Kirk, like Joe Rogan, and elsewhere. And so now he is going to try and engage, which is what the left doesn't do this, engage with right-leaning folks that have big audiences to draw eyeballs and attention to himself. And we should not be giving that to him. I am telling you, I'm begging you, this show should be boycotted. No, I'm not anti-free speech. But when his objective is to give himself political power and to make himself competitive in 2028, when we're trying to defeat the Democrat Party, why would you go and obviously help the left, help Gavin Newsom rebrand himself, because he's a fraud? And so I just played that clip where he tries to express some kind of centrist position, which is obvious, which is biological males should not be competing against biological females in sports. And yet, what is he doing now? What did he do yesterday? California is one of those states that is doubling down on protecting the non-right of biological males to compete against biological females. So that is here, ingrained in our culture, politically, and our education system in California still. While this has been proven a disaster, unfair, and he says right there he thinks it's unfair, well, he's doing nothing to change that. So this guy's a fraud, and the media is going to let him get away with it. The media is going to let him get away with it. So that's why I oppose this fundamentally. Now, Trump is fully in the process of draining the swamp, but the uncertainty for many is, will he expose the entire pandemic? There's enough public evidence for folks to be concerned who injected themselves in this experiment. If you were forced to get the shot to work, to travel, or maybe you just trusted the system back then, check out this natural solution formulated by Dr. Peter McCullough in collaboration with a wellness company. And they just leveled up their original detox formula for $30 less, by the way. Introducing the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox, conveniently consolidated into one capsule with 4 times more natokinase, 500 milligrams of bromelain, and 500 milligrams of turmeric root extract. Natokinase, an enzyme researched for its anti-clotting effects, may work to break down spike proteins. Combined with bromelain and curcumin, it provides a potent blend for detoxification and cellular support. So it's crafted with 100% natural ingredients. Ultimate Spike Detox, it's backed with research. It offers effective support for your cell's natural repair and recovery. So experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. Peter McCullough, a top freedom-fighting doctor who risked it all. Head to dailycloudhealth.com and use code DailyClout to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, it's dailycloudhealth.com. Use code DailyClout to get 10% off. So get back to that pre-COVID feeling. Look, we're going to do a little bit of the weave today. I'm looking behind me. I can see this. This is, every day there's a disaster with this studio outside, whatever, 2 kids, lost my space, whatever, trying to figure it out. Hang tight. Aha. Got that solved, didn't I? So I want to talk about the Democrat Party. I want to talk about this speech he gave to Congress, which was so amazing. It was amazing to see a couple of things. One, you saw a articulate person who had all his mental faculties simply speaking to the American people. There was no, drug-induced screaming, insanity. There was no, getting the name Laken Riley wrong, saying Lincoln Riley, or any of that. And the Democrats are just playing into the authentic image that the American people now accept as it relates to the Democrat Party. And that was one of the things too, is the Democrat Party's problem is that the mask is off. They have been engaged in theatrics throughout their history, lying about who they are. Hiding their actual agenda, disguising it, right? And they spent the last 4 years showing us exactly who they were. They took the mask off. And I think they brazenly did it because they actually convinced themselves that they won the 2020 election. They actually convinced themselves they did it. And there was one moment in particular that I want to talk about in just a minute, which was the young pediatric cancer survivor, brain cancer. He was given a death sentence, I think 6 years ago, DJ, black kid. He was invited by Donald Trump to be there at the speech with his father. And he made DJ, the kid who's 13 now. I mean, think about that. 6 years ago, he was given a death sentence and he survived. It's 6 years later. And he wants to be a cop, by the way. He loves law enforcement. And because he was diagnosed with terminal cancer and survived, gave him some clarity about what he wanted to do. So he and his father have been on this mission since that diagnosis to help fulfill DJ's dream, because you never know how much time you have on this earth. And that's very real for him, who was told he was going to die and is still alive and survived the cancer diagnosis. So the NYPD's already made him a some kind of figurehead police officer, right? And so Donald Trump gave him the honor of making him a Secret Service agent and making him an honorary Secret Service agent. So he's gone around, and this is a thing, it's not new. The NYPD did this for him. And he said that this latest honor, the Secret Service agent award that he was given, being made an honorary Secret Service agent, this was the top of the mountain for him. It was so amazing and meaningful. And the Democrats, of course, took something that was sweet, that was genuine, that was not partisan, celebrating a young boy who survived cancer, making a dream come true, and they found a way to attack it and attack the boy because it was Donald Trump doing it. And I cannot say this enough. You Democrats out there, you listening who have Democrat friends, those who continue to support the Democrat Party, that are represented by what the Democrat Party did during this address, their reaction to this young boy, 13-year-old, having a dream come true on national television, you have a mental illness, and it's severe. We joke and say TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, but it's not a joke. It's very, very real, and it's very, very severe. And someone with TDS, obviously, they are incapable of accepting reality. They're incapable. They walk through life hating Donald Trump. It's the most important thing in their life to them. It's not Christianity. It's not their faith. It's not their family. The one thing that dominates the Democrat voters' mind is this cloud of hatred and depression known as Trump derangement syndrome. And it has almost rewired the neurons in their brains because they fire and everything they view is through a lens of hatred. If Trump was involved, they have to attack it. even if it's the right decision, even if it's good for them. They hate Trump so much, with so much irrationality, that they cannot see clearly. They cannot see up and down. And I do not know what the cure for them is. I really don't know what. I guess the cure is to admit that they've been lied to their whole lives. It's to look in the mirror and acknowledge that you've been wrong. And I don't know that Democrats are capable of that type of humility for self-growth. But this is really limiting you. This is me saying this as a friend. I mean, usually I just want to destroy you, but today I'm offering you an olive branch, which is, as someone who does actually love people and I want the best for them, I'm really praying for you Democrats out there that you can get your head out of your ass and that you can get some clarity in this life, because I feel bad for you and your families that have to suffer by your mental illness. And again, I don't know what the cure is. I guess the cure is simply to look in the mirror and say, I'm a dumbass. I'm a piece of crap. If you can do that, I think that you might be cured. Look in the mirror and say, oh my God, how have I done this all these years? I'm such a wretched piece of garbage. But you know what? There's forgiveness for you, and I will forgive you too. Just come over to our side, see the light, and make the country succeed again, instead of attacking 13-year-old boys with cancer because you hate Trump. Because if you're in that category, you can go F yourself. I don't believe there is hope for people like that, and I don't care. I will duel you till my last breath if that is your take. If you saw this ceremony, if you cannot condemn the actions of the Democrats in that chamber, if you cannot condemn Rachel Maddow and Nicole Wallace, who I'm going to play in just a second, for their remarks about this innocent 13-year-old kid who supports Trump, F yourself. F yourself. You have a lifetime enemy in me, because I'm going to support these 13-year-old kids who have dreams, who survive cancer, and take politics out of it. But you apparently are incapable of doing that. So let's just get to it for a second here. And this is the 80-20 rule again. 80% of the country, it should have been 100%, but, and 80% of the country, you should say, thought this was an amazing moment, cheered this young boy, DJ, who survived cancer, having a lifelong dream fulfilled by Donald Trump on that night. It didn't matter if Trump did it or somebody else. It was an amazing moment. It wasn't about Trump. It was about this boy who survived brain cancer. And what do Democrats do? They take the side of the 20% who want to attack this and say something like, here's Maddow. Let's play what Maddow had to say first, and then we'll play Nicole Wallace. Both of these people, Trump derangement syndrome, mentally ill people, millionaires who get paid to spew poison on air, but thankfully only 4 people watch. Here's Maddow.
For the record, and this is disgusting, the president made a spectacle out of praising a young man who thus far survived pediatric cancer, as if the president had something to do with that. This was in the midst of him praising Doge. The Doge cuts, among other things, have cut off funding for ongoing research into pediatric cancer.
What a loathsome piece of garbage. Now, firstly, there's this talking point out there, which is verifiably insane, about how Donald Trump is cutting, funding to cancer. Now, if you cut, funding to one program that's paying $50 million to cancer from taxpayer money, and by the way, you're not checking on how it's being used, if it's being used efficiently, and so on and so forth. There's plenty of money going to cancer research from the government and also in the private sector. So this is ridiculous, the idea that Donald Trump, and by the way, I would add that it was President Joe Biden who told us that he was going to cure cancer. What happened? Joe Biden said he was going to cure cancer multiple times while he was president, and so far, cancer has not been cured. But that's her, and here's Nicole Wallace. Listen to this.
But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel, and I let myself feel joy about DJ, and I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious.
This is a disgusting wench of a woman, Nicole Wallace. Of course, she takes this And she said, "Oh, I hope he lives a long life. I hope he lives a long life. Good for DJ, but I also hope he doesn't have to, defend the Capitol against a mob of Donald Trump supporters and he doesn't die. I hope he doesn't die because he's a Trump supporter." I mean, that's what she's saying right there, and it's disgusting. Now, if I was a disgusting wench like Nicole Wallace, I could say, if President Biden, instead of insulting victims of his policies throughout the country and our armed forces and Laken Riley and all these different people, if he instead decided to, hey, there's a kid with pediatric cancer, he has a lifetime goal of, he loves service and law enforcement. President Biden, why don't you, make him an honorary Secret Service member? And if Joe Biden did what Donald Trump did, I wouldn't sit behind this microphone and say, yeah, you know what, I hope. Or when the NYPD gave him an honorary, made him an honorary cop, I wouldn't say, I hope he lives a long life, but I hope all these illegals that Joe Biden came in here, I hope they don't kill him while he's in the duty of being a police officer in New York City. I hope he doesn't lose his life because of, this is what these people are. They don't have any morals. They cannot see clearly, like I said before, but that's what you have. And Donald Trump said it best, by the way. Here's one clip. It's about 51 seconds. There are a million clips I could play that would just impress you if you didn't see it, that were just so powerful. And even before I do that, let me give you a perfect example. So CBS did a poll after the Trump speech, and among speech watchers, 76% approved, 23% disapproved. Okay, here's another time Trump spent on issues you care about. 63% said he spent a lot of time. So 76%, right? That's the number. 76% approved of the speech. So there's your 80-20 rule. So majority of people who watched the speech approved of it, thought it was amazing. Of course, Democrats are going to come out here and act like it was a terrible speech. They're incapable of getting on the side of truth. The CBS poll found some other stuff out too. The speech made you feel. 68% said hopeful, 54% said proud. It's just incredible. And look at this. 74% said it was presidential. 74% said it was entertaining. 71% said it was inspiring. 62% even said it was unifying. And 46% said it's divisive. So above 70% thought this was an amazing speech and what the country needed. And so Democrats won't look at that and say, wow, Donald Trump's doing something right. If the American people like this, maybe we should change our policies to help them out. No. It's all about power for them. And the irony is they're giving up any power they've had by continuing down this path. Now, here's what Donald Trump said. Listen to this, because he's absolutely right. And what he's really addressing here is, in fact, TDS, Trump derangement syndrome.
And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, a disease that would wipe out entire nations, or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history, or the stoppage of crime to the lowest levels ever recorded. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. Five times I've been up here. It's very sad.
He's exactly right. It's very sad. And all that image of people you just saw sitting there, they're so juvenile, they're so petty, they're so immature, holding their little signs, stupid signs, wearing pink in some cases. Not a single one of them stood when DJ was honored, the child cancer survivor. Actually, that's not true. I read somewhere that one Democrat stood up. One Democrat stood up. But the entire party, apart from this one person, supposedly, you can see them. They all just sat there. They couldn't even bring themselves to support this innocent young boy. So they would hurt and destroy an innocent young boy because of their hatred for Donald Trump. That's not okay. That's not okay at all. And a couple of other amazing things here. You've heard, Donald Trump mentioned this during the speech, and this is why the Democrats, there's no respect. So CNN did a fact check. Donald Trump said that Doge identified government spending $8 million for making mice transgender, right? So that's what Donald Trump said in the speech. We've heard that. And the Democrats held up their signs and booed, and they said it was false. And by the way, during the speech, you couldn't even hear it because thankfully the audio was set up in such a way that it really just captured in a greater way Donald Trump's voice in his speech, and it tuned out a lot of the nonsense coming from the audience. But they were booing the entire time. And of course, that one loser from Houston, whatever his name is, congressman, he got thrown out and booted. And, you know, a majority of the American people supported that too. But of course, the Democrat Party is going to come down and support that, just like they support. I mean, Doge is here. I mean, there are this 80-20 rule is crazy, folks. So first, let me just say this. So before Trump's address, in Trump's address to Congress, right, CNN did a fact check, and they said Trump falsely claimed that the Department of Government Efficiency identified government spending of $8 million for making mice transgender. So they said it wasn't true. Okay. Now they have they've corrected their fact check and said an earlier version of this item incorrectly characterized as false Trump's claim about federal money being spent for making mice transgender. So why would you Democrats out there, here's the thing. I mean, the Democrats, you're idiots. And I have no respect for you whatsoever. I'll never forget, my former best friend, that severed ties with me after 2020 because I voted for Trump. He got on the phone with me during the election and was just picking a fight. And from memory, because I'm an intelligent person who actually reads and studies and has common sense, I was talking about some of the anomalies in the election and saying, this doesn't make sense. And this happened, and that happened. And he was sitting at the hospital. He's a doctor. Sitting at the hospital, getting on a computer, and he was like, "What was that? What did you say?" And he'd type it in, and he'd check, and he'd say, "Well, CNN says that you're not telling the truth." I'd say, well, "CNN, I am telling the truth." So my point is, all these Democrats out there, they're so stupid and they're so mind numb that they actually cannot think for themselves. So CNN gives them some fact check like that, which isn't even true. So CNN is a propagandist like the rest, and they tell the Democrat Party it's not true, even if it is. And the Democrat, your friend, whatever, will then say, well, CNN says it's not true and you're a liar. But I'm right. And so now CNN comes out and they correct their fact check and say, actually, we're full of shit. We just lied to you. Sorry for the profanity. Not really. Profanity is necessary when you talk about Democrats. But anyway, so that's what's going on, this 80-20 rule. And here, I'll play this clip for you. Listen to this about the 80-20 rule.
During the course of the event, which is wanting to get reaction on Congressman Al Green's antics and being ejected, 80% of speech watchers said that the Democratic congressman's interrupting of Trump's speech was inappropriate. Only 20% of speech watchers thought what Green did was appropriate.
Bingo. There you go. It's so obvious. 80% said it was inappropriate, and yet the Democrats do what? They continue to support it. And I say bring it on. Keep going. Keep doing that because, you are going to be a footnote in history here, hopefully soon. Well, it's time for my my weekly New Year's resolution update. Let me sit up straight in this chair here for you. Anyway, mine was easy to focus on my well-being. Part of that's sleep, part of that's going to the gym and working out. But we know that the foundation of our well-being is a good night's sleep. So if I could do just one thing to improve my sleep and overall well-being, guess what? It's taking the number one mineral for that, which helps me on so many levels personally. I'm talking about magnesium. Not just any magnesium. I'm talking about magnesium breakthrough by Optimizers. Optimizers. It's called Magnesium Breakthrough. And the 7 different forms of magnesium in this supplement are involved in over 600 different biochemical reactions in the body. I mean, every function of your body gets upgraded, folks, when you take magnesium. Quality of sleep, brain function, all of it. Metabolism, stress management, stress levels. And do yourself a favor. Make Magnesium Breakthrough part of your daily routine this year so you can get the vitality you need to conquer your dreams. Go to buyoptimizers.com/dailyclout and enter promo code dailyclout to get 10% off any order. If you subscribe, you'll not only get amazing discounts and free gifts, you'll make sure your monthly supply is guaranteed. So again, it's buyoptimizers.com/dailyclout, promo code dailyclout. All right. So I just want to hone in on this thing I've been thinking about for a while, which is that Democrats have been running a pretty successful con operation for a long time. And what you're witnessing now in real time is the end of that con. It's over. It's been going on for decades and decades and decades. And much of the Democrat Party's success was based on this idea that was accepted. It was that the Democrat Party was cool. That Democrats weren't just cooler, but they were more sophisticated. They were smarter. They were better educated, and you wanted to be a Democrat. And yet, what have you seen with the Democrat Party? What did you see if you watched that Trump's address? Those weren't sophisticated people. Those weren't intelligent people. Those weren't cool people. Those were freaking weirdos sitting in an audience that were good for nothings. These are the people that you knew in school growing up that were never going to make anything of themselves because they didn't have any of the qualities that led to a contributing member of society. And yet somehow all those very people wound up in Congress as Democrats. And that's what you saw in that audience. So it wasn't ever true, but it was accepted. And they did a little bit better job. You know, they had Barack Obama and they managed to convince people that he was cool, mainly on the basis that he was black. And you can't say anything bad about the first black president, even though he was half white. But that's when it really reached its peak. And what I want to explain to you in the end is that, you know, we aren't really surprised by this, but Democrats are because they continue to believe this lie. So, you know, Obama was the American Messiah, and that was the pinnacle of this Democrat myth, right? He was going to walk on water. He was going to save the world. And, you know, if you voted for him, you were absolving yourselves of the sins of, you know, the founding fathers and slave owners throughout history, even if that had nothing to do with you. And so he won. But remember, his second term was already failing because when the second election, he lost a lot of votes. And if McCain or Romney had been willing to actually take him to task on his radical history, he likely wouldn't have lost. If he had faced a Donald Trump, you would have never had a Barack Obama. But also, you wouldn't have had Trump if we didn't have Barack Obama. So it's because of Barack Obama that ultimately have Donald Trump, which is a net good for the country. But this was a shtick, you know. So Barack Obama was elected largely on this race narrative, even though once he got elected, he said, well, thanks for voting for me, but racism's in your DNA. So actually, you're absolved of nothing. And so his policies were horrendous. You know, you had the Tea Party wave that came in and took over Congress in midterms, and it led to Trump, like I said. But Democrats haven't recovered really since 2016. That's my point. They put up Hillary Clinton. You think Hillary Clinton was cool? Was she whatever? No, she got beat by Trump. She got beat by Trump. They went from Obama to Hillary Clinton. And you have this massive void in the party. And what happened is, I mean, look, they tried the first female president shtick with Clinton. It didn't work. It wasn't effective. And she was known, right? She wasn't like Barack Obama, who was mainly, even though he had a history, the Democrat Party and the media covered it up. So he was this blank canvas of hope and optimism and whatever you wanted to paint on Barack Obama, the Messiah, your savior. But Clinton wasn't like that because she'd been in public office and in public eye for too long. So people didn't like her. She wasn't a likable person. And, you know, you go up to 2020 now and it was an anomaly. You see, a lot of people think this was interrupted. It wasn't. The Democrat Party's been on decline since 2016, since Trump's first victory, his first election. And 2020 with the mail-in ballots, with the Zuck bucks, you know, I mean, all of the interference when it came to the Hunter Biden laptop and the censorship and everything else. I mean, the biggest effort we've seen in American history was conducted by the deep state and the left in 2020 to ensure that Donald Trump didn't win. You have to remember that. It was the most comprehensive effort we've ever seen to fix an election. Whether you want to talk about the mail-in ballots and the cheating in that regard, or the censorship and the Hunter Biden laptop suppression and all that sort of stuff. But the point is, it was a Herculean effort to interfere in the election. It was the greatest example of election interference in American history. That was 2020. And so Joe Biden was declared the winner, right? And so Democrats, I think, many of them really believe that they won. They believe that there was a shift in the country, that they had defeated Donald Trump, that it was over and behind them. And so they doubled down. They took off the mask because Democrats throughout history have gone to the center when they run for election. Barack Obama did this. He pretended to be a moderate, and he was the most radical president we'd seen. But they disguised their agenda. They're careful not to let the American people see that they're true Marxists and communists and tyrants. But 2020, that was gone. Joe Biden and the Democrat Party embraced who they really were, and they let the American people see who they were. They promoted publicly the most radical policies. They suddenly decided that they thought that biological males should compete against women. They pushed the transgender issue in our schools. All of this insanity culturally and economically. They didn't care about inflation. They lied to our faces repeatedly about inflation. I mean, it was just a disaster, and the American people didn't like what they saw. But the Democrat Party, there was no going back. They showed us who they were. And it backfired because now there's no denying that they're radical. They've come out of the closet, if you will, and there's no going back in. It's like, hi, I'm gay. Oh, I'm not gay anymore. Hi, I'm a radical. Oh, not really. I was just kidding. No, it doesn't work that way. Once you're out, you're out. And so they let their guard down, and we had 4 years of insanity, 4 years of lies, of behavior that went against everything they claimed they stood for. I mean, think about this. The anti-war party, the Democrat Party, right? They were so eager to go to war with Ukraine. The pro-woman party supported the anti-woman ideology of biological males, men in skirts competing against biological females in sports. They opposed free speech. They supported censorship. They were crass. They were hateful. They were hypocrites. They were liars. They were frauds. They claimed to support democracy, but then after they forced their electorate, Democrat voters, to vote for Joe Biden in the primary, they then took Joe Biden out of the primary and replaced him with Kamala Harris. There was no democracy there. There was no democratic process. They tried to blame Trump for a slumping economy, for unrest, for division, for every other serious problem, despite the Democrats having been in control for 4 years. The anti-billionaire party of the Democrats, right? The rich don't pay their fair share. Well, who did they pay themselves to come out and stump for Kamala Harris? Billionaires like Oprah Winfrey and other multi-millionaires. They paid to come out and dance. And the point is, nothing is authentic with the Democrat Party. It's all an act. It's all a charade. It's all a facade. And the American people understand that now. The American people see that now. And nothing says that more than this. Let me play this clip. This is the Democrat Party. I mean, this is the kind of dire straits they're in. I mean, they're getting shellacked everywhere. They are facing a crisis of identity. And this is the kind of video they're putting out to promote themselves. They just have, I mean, they try to have a sense of humor, I guess, and it doesn't work. It falls flat on their face. I mean, who are these people? So if you were just listening, what I just played there was the Democrats put together this clip, like in those Japanese, like Street Fighter or whatever those video games are, the posture where they kind of bounce up and down like this. You know what I'm talking about, right? So you had these different Democrats there, from AOC to Jasmine Crockett, that were in, that portrait mode, I guess you will, in their phones. They were just bouncing up and down. And it said, choose your fighter. I mean, what is this supposed to be a sense of humor? And I don't even have the 22 plus Congress pronouns and senators, Democrats out there that were given the same script, propaganda attacking Trump. And they all put it on their social media at the same time. The point is, nothing is real about these people. And Donald Trump is the realest politician we've ever had. The realest politician we've ever had. So, who are the Democrats? Well, they're juvenile. They're bullies. They're petty. They're sour. They're ignorant. They're intolerant. They're mean. They're cruel. They're monsters, frankly. And more importantly, when Trump made that 13-year-old boy DJ an honorary member of the Secret Service, the Democrats couldn't bring themselves to clap for him because they're so vile and wicked. And then you have Nicole Wallace politicizing it. You have, Rachel Maddow doing the same thing. It's just totally insane. But here we go. Here's a little clip of Jasmine Crockett. Notice how she used to speak versus how she speaks today. She's black.
Absolutely. First of all, it's good to see you in the new year. No one could have told me that when I went down to Austin, now looks like a little bit over a year ago, that I would be running for Congress. It's just not what my plan was. But what I've always decided is that I would step up when there was a need. Listen, he up there, he's hearing all kinds of nonsense and bullshit. Let me just be real. And we weren't gonna sit for that shit. We wouldn't, you know. But when she...
So when did she decide to become ratchet? Huh? When did she decide to go full ghetto? Did some advisor get a hold of her? I mean, you know, I don't change the way I speak. I don't put on an accent. I don't pretend to be anything but who I am. I'm Drew Allen, the millennial minister of truth. I despise Democrats destroying this country. And that's who I am. I have a family. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I have 2 daughters. And this is how I speak. This is who I am, and I'm proud of it. These people are complete frauds. I mean, they are just empty vessels of evil and hatred and destruction. And evil, of course, finds a place in their hearts so easily because they're vacuous. They're vacuous. So no, you should put up, you know, notch up the ghetto thing, you know, because that's going to be popular now. I mean, I just don't understand. I mean, look, if she's ghetto, she's ghetto. That's fine. Be ghetto. But don't, you know, pretend to sit in the chair one day and speak like this and the next be like, I don't give a shit. You know, I mean, what are you doing? It's not resonating with the American people is my point.
You have to stay healthy and well at times like this. You know that I often have suffered from mobility issues, and now I don't. Part of my lifestyle is Native Path Collagen. So Native Path's collagen formula is made with ingredients that are scientifically developed to increase bone mineral density, support tissue recovery, reduce wrinkles, enhance hair thickness, and strengthen nails. Who wouldn't want more collagen with all of these benefits? So right now, when you visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout, you can stock up on Native Path Collagen for up to an incredible 45% off today, plus free shipping. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee. You can try it risk-free today. It is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners, and it's third-party tested for heavy metals, which makes sure that it is pure and safe. It's flavorless. You can add it to anything. I add it to my oatmeal. You can add it to coffee or smoothies. Its formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes without clumping. And the best part is Native Path is offering amazing bundle deals, 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice, and they offer an 800 number. You can ask any question. A real person is waiting to help. You can join a private Facebook community. I love these people. Share recipes, success stories. So that's getnativepath.com/dailyclout and start your experience of transformation today.
Well, we don't have a lot of time left today. You know, one of the big scandals, right, that I alluded to earlier is that, you know, who was running the Joe Biden administration, and more importantly than who precisely, you know, how are any of the things that took place, how is any of the destruction, the policies that took place over that 4-year period, how are those legal? How are those binding if it wasn't in fact Joe Biden doing them? You know, if the president of the United States, for example, has the authority to issue executive orders, but Joe Biden, it turns out, wasn't issuing any of the executive orders, but someone else was doing it pretending to be him, well, do any of those executive orders stand? That's the question we're facing now. And frankly, it is a constitutional crisis, but there's too much attention elsewhere that this isn't really getting the focus that it needs right now. But I want to remind you of something. This is the moment Speaker Johnson, right? Mike Johnson, this was before Trump was elected. But towards the end of Joe Biden's term, he finally had the courage to come out and explain something about Joe Biden's mental faculties. Listen to this.
Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, you know, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, you know. And he looks at me, stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order, like, 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir. He said, no, you misunderstand. He said, what I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG. I said, no, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security. It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed. And I walked out of that meeting with fear and loathing because I thought,
yeah, whatever. And, I could go on a whole spiel here about Johnson and how that infuriates me that he waited so long to tell the American people that story. But of course, it wouldn't have changed much because we knew that that Joe Biden wasn't running the country. And how amazing to have somebody that is in charge again. And that's the truth. But he has an auto pen, and the auto pen isn't a scandal itself because you're signing so many documents, but it's an auto pen. It's literally a pen mechanism that signs your signature without your hand having to do it. And so for 4 years, we know. I mean, it's just I can't even put into words what a big scandal this is because it's just hard to wrap your head around. That for 4 years we just had somebody and a group of people that we don't know running the country, and the media just pretended that everything was okay. They refused to cover this. I mean, we had a rogue administration. I mean, who was doing it? There's a story, by the way. The FBI at the direction of Kash Patel, I suppose, and Pam Bondi. They've just arrested 2 people on charges for treason. They were trying to sell or had already sold critical information related to our military to the communist Chinese. And I wish I had in front of me because, of course, their last names are like Li. It's a couple of Chinese people. Now, I don't know what I wanted to know more about their story. Were they born here? Did they immigrate here or whatever else? But shocking, a couple of Chinese individuals were selling, American secrets to the Chinese, but that's no different than Joe Biden and his. By the way, Hunter Biden is broke. He's broke. There's a lawsuit going on right now. I forget which one. You can read about it. But he's trying to get out of it because he says he's bankrupt. He doesn't have any money. This guy made a $1.5 million on 10 of his paintings by the beginning of January 2024. That's when I read the article. 1.5 million. I mean, I thought this guy was like Picasso. I thought this was the greatest artist, in the last 500 years. You know what this story means, right? That he's bankrupt and he can't. Well, it proves the point that the only source of income that the Bidens had was directly related to his father's ability to influence foreign governments. So this is the latest proof that we have that the Biden family is perhaps the most corrupt political family in American history. Hunter Biden's bankrupt. He can't make any money all of a sudden. But I thought people were buying his paintings because he was such an amazing painter. All of a sudden, there's no money pouring into Hunter Biden because his father is no longer in public service. He's no longer in a position to do anything. There's no reason to pay them off because he's impotent now. It's just incredible. It's incredible. Here's a clip of Trudeau. Now, I want to say something. When I talk about masculinity, this is the one place where I would say that it's a quality that you can find in certain female leaders like Maloney. But masculinity, we have the European Union is filled with effeminate losers. And Trudeau in Canada, not European, but Trudeau is perhaps the most effeminate leader that we've seen. Listen to him talk here.
On a personal level, I've made sure that every single day in this office, I put Canadians first, that I have people's backs. And that's why I'm here to tell you all that we got you. Even in the very last days of this government, we will not let Canadians down. Today,
I mean, I can't tell because he's got the blazer on, but I bet he's lactating there. I bet milk is coming out of that guy's nipples right now. Or when he was giving that speech, teary-eyed cry, I won't. That's not the kind of leader the world wants. And that's why the world not the media, but the world looks at Donald Trump and they are envious of what we have because we have actually somebody who represents masculinity, which is just assertiveness, strength. And this is, so you don't have any masculinity across Europe. You know who the most masculine leader is in Europe? It's Meloni, Prime Minister Meloni in Italy. And that's not to call her a man. She is a woman, every bit a woman. And she's a wonderful person. And I think she's heroic at this point. And I hope that she continues on her path because she could make Italy truly great again. But she's the most masculine leader in Europe because she has that spirit, that love, that strength, that fighting spirit, not this effeminate, girly Trudeau stuff going on. But anyway, that's all we have time for today. This is Drew Allen, your Millennial Minister of Truth. God bless you all. And until next time.